Mattress Mack here with the great John McClain talking sports. Big week coming up, John.
Great week. I kind of prefer to forget the weekend because the Texans just got hammered. I'm ready for the college football semifinals. It seems like they played 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And the only good thing about waiting so long is injured players get healed. So unless you've lost somebody for the season, uh, the Longhorns and Huskies are going to be full strength, just like Michigan and Alabama. And one of the things, if you're looking at the Longhorns, I've been studying Washington, and they got a coach, DeBoer, who came from, I think, Division II, won national championships. He's done a great job, but he doesn't have a track record to see building up to big games other than a lower level, where you know what the Longhorns got, you know what Harbaugh and Saban have, and Washington's got a great quarterback, Michael Penix. They got really good receivers, just like the Longhorns do. And I think it's going to be an offensive game. It's going to be fun watching all the talent between the Huskies' offensive linemen and the Longhorns' defensive linemen. And then when you get to Alabama, the Alabama game, you think, okay, Saban's had all this time to prepare. Harbaugh's lost 6 bowl games in a row. A lot of people are pulling for Saban. They don't like Harbaugh. You know, I can't wait to see what they have planned for Harbaugh and the cheating, the signs and everything that'll be out. But I still think it's going to be Alabama and Texas playing here for the national championship.
Alabama, Texas. That'd be a hot game, wouldn't it?
It'd be a hot game, and that first game, when they played in Tuscaloosa in September, you know, the Longhorns just beat them up. You don't see that happen much. Just beat them up. And Alabama's gotten so much better because Joe Milroe, the quarterback who got his degree wisely, is going back to school. You know, Nick Saban loves that. His improvement from September, when the Longhorns physically dominated the Crimson Tide, and his improvement now, somebody's coached him really, really well on offense. So it's going to be, if they get here, those two teams, it'll be you couldn't ask for any more. University of Texas, which has more alums here than anybody, including the Aggies, and the excitement and what those ticket prices are going for, and people who bet on the game. Can you imagine that? What that's going to be like? I can't wait. I hope the Longhorns win. Sacrilegious for me to say that, being from Baylor, but I want them to win, and I want Alabama to win, where you have Texas and Alabama rematch.
Now, who would be favored?
I'm guessing Alabama because of Saban. When you have this much time to prepare, usually you look at the coach. Nobody's got a better track record or longer track record than Nick Saban. Sarkisian has been a head coach a bunch of places, but he hasn't been under the gun like he will be in this one. He's got a lot of talent. He's done a fantastic job, but I think it'll be a narrow margin, but I think Alabama would be favored. Now, if it's, say, Michigan and Washington, it sounds, we've been talking about Texas and Alabama, it's almost, to me as a football fan here, it'd be a letdown.
Yeah.
You had 2 great teams, but, man, I want the Longhorns against one of them. I'd love to see Texas beat Michigan, beat Harbaugh, but Saban with his protege, Steve Sarkisian, who worked for him 2 different times. Sarkisian's a great comeback story to overcome alcoholism, and now having a chance to win a national championship is just an incredible story happening right here in Houston.
Right here in Houston. Well, all eyes would be on us. Are the Texans pretty beat up right now?
They're beat up physically. I was watching other teams over the weekend. I was watching San Francisco get hammered at home by Baltimore. And I'm thinking both of them have had their quarterbacks all year. Baltimore's offense has had one significant loss, a tight end. San Francisco had all its playmakers out there. And I was thinking if the Texans had had Stroud and Tank Dell and all those players they've lost, how much better would they be? It's almost like an NFL war of attrition. And like Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa, both had starting quarterbacks. If you've got your starting quarterback and he's good, you got a chance. And the Texans went out Case Keenum played terrible against Cleveland. Cleveland, they might have beaten anybody the way they played Sunday. Talk about success stories. Joe Flacco was on watching games on his couch, playing pickleball, taking his kids to school. They give him a call, and he's been as good as he was when he was Super Bowl MVP for Baltimore. And I, as a sentimental guy, I kind of would like to see Detroit and Cleveland because they've never been to a Super Bowl because of their long-suffering fans. Cleveland's last championship was '64. The Jim Brown's next to last year. Blanton Collier was the head coach. And the last one for Detroit, you and I were not in diapers, but we were approaching the first grade. They won back-to-back under Buddy Parker. I think it'd be just unbelievable if those two franchises played in the Super Bowl.
Buddy Parker was Yale Larry on the team.
He had Yale Larry, Night Train Lane.
Yeah.
He had a secondary that had all four starters in the Hall of Fame. They were great. You don't use great and Lions in the same sentence very much. Since then, they just won their first division title in 30 years.
Wow. How about what's up with Astros?
Astros, it's hard to believe, 2 months they'll be at spring training in West Palm Beach. Pitchers and catchers will be there. All the other non-pitchers and catchers will be headed over there. People will be so fired up. You know, anytime you have a new manager, a new coach, anything, people get excited unless, even when it's a terrible team and your team's way down here trying to take baby steps up. But the Astros, 7 in a row to get to at least the American League Championship Series, and Joe Espada's there for all of them. And so it's very exciting to watch and see, okay, what might he do differently than Dusty Baker? You know, strategy, player usage. They haven't brought in a lot of players from other teams, and it's weird to think the Astros are going to be chasing the Rangers.
Yeah, it is weird. We need to turn that scenario around by mid-season, have the Rangers chasing us. How about the Rockets? How are they doing?
Rockets have been doing well. They play defense. Ime Udoka has done a great job, just like D'Amico Ryans. He came in there. He's transformed the team, worse than the league over the last 3 years. One of the things I like, he'll take his most talented player, Jalen Green. He might be on the bench when they're trying to make a comeback or they're trying to maintain a lead. He's not worried about his stars hurting their feelings. They've developed a couple of guys like Alperen Sengun has been phenomenal. He had 30-something points, I think 15 rebounds. All these players are developing, the young guys. They are talented. They are loaded. All the high draft choices they picked are all coming to fruition now with Udoka. Udoka's been just unbelievable coach. I like the way he sounds. I like the way he coaches. I try to watch him. I read everything I can about him because there's a good chance the Rockets going to be in the playoffs.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
How about Texans? They got a chance?
Oh, they got a chance. The only good thing that happened to the Texans on Sunday, every AFC South team lost. And the only one that didn't get hammered was the worst team that's not in the playoff race, Tennessee, which lost by 3. I've got a column I'm writing today on sportsradio610.com about all 4 teams losing. So now there's still a 3-way tie for first place. The Texans have the Titans coming in here, team they beat with a last-second field goal 2 weeks ago. And then they go to Indy, and if they win this game, it looks like that last game against Indy could be for the division title or could be for a wild card berth.
When's the quarterback coming back?
They hope this week. D'Amico Ryans told the media that he had gotten back out. The 5 steps of the protocol, the next to last one, you've got to be limited in practice, and then you have to have a full practice. So they're hoping he'll be back on the field, limited on Wednesday, maybe a full practice Thursday or Friday. But I'm expecting him to be back for the Tennessee game, and they need him desperately.
Do you put much stock in these coaches when they say so-and-so had a great practice?
No. I've seen coaches tell me in the past, they say, oh, God, our practices have been terrible, and then they win big. And some coaches, they watch certain players, and certain guys that practice and play hard, they're always going to practice hard, but they're so easy on them now They're just walkthroughs. So what's a good walkthrough? Nobody hits anybody anymore. I'm not really sure what they judge them on anymore. Drop passes. How can you drop passes in practice? Because in the old days, then they hit, and their last hitting practice would be Thursday, and so they get an idea about the intensity. But there's no intensity in practice anymore.
In the old days, they used to hit, huh?
They did, and they're trying today. And I remember, I think it was Bill Walsh was the first coach that I remember who took it easier on them the closer they got to the end of the season to try to preserve their legs. And then when they got the playoffs, they were great and they had a dynasty. And then more and more started doing it. Where a guy like Bud Grant, old school, he would have the Vikings hitting all the time. And people thought the reason they couldn't win a Super Bowl is they were worn out.
Is that right?
I think they got beat just by better teams. But now no coach goes out there and wears them out at this time of the year because everybody has some kind of injury.
Do you think the number of injuries in the NFL are increasing because they've increased the number of games?
Yes, and I think they're going to go to 18.
Wow.
And as long as the players get more money, they'll vote for it. They don't have to vote for it, but they'll approve it. It's not in the collective bargaining agreement, but so many players right now, key players, quarterbacks, that's the key. If they could somehow find a way to help the quarterbacks not getting hurt, but they already protect them with the rules as much as they can. I've never seen so many starting quarterbacks get injured as now. And I'm looking at those teams like the Cowboys with Dak Prescott and the Dolphins with Tua Tagovailoa. This is the first team Tua Tagovailoa's first season. He's been healthy since he started playing, and they said a lot of it was he took jiu-jitsu in the off season to show him how to fall and to keep from hitting his head. Well, now are all quarterbacks going to be out there and trying to see if it works for them? But there's too many backup quarterbacks playing, and I'll tell you this, good agents, those backups are going to get a lot more money from now on. Instead of playing some backup linebacker, $10 million a year, they're going to put it into a backup quarterback, so it's going to be a very lucrative market for the good ones.
So what was I going to ask you? I thought the Cowboys played really good. I was surprised they lost that game.
Cowboys,
They fumbled the ball on the 1 yard line.
I've never seen a guy where his whole body, and this is Tony Pollard, takes a pitch from Dak Prescott, and I had it on, and I think I was looking at my phone. No, I wasn't. I had it on. I was looking at my phone on my laptop, and I see him go across the goal line. I'm looking at the Texans, and then all of a sudden, I see him not in the end zone. And I watch the replay. Everything but the ball was in the end zone. I've never seen that. I've never seen a guy's body is in there, but the ball, if it just hits the white line, but he didn't, and then they turn it over. So the Eagles have a really easy closing schedule, and they should have blown out the Giants. They play the Giants again. Cowboys still play a tough schedule. So I think Dallas is going to be a wild card, have to go on the road. But I think every Cowboy fan out there is petrified of the idea of the Cowboys playing on the road in the playoffs.
I thought Dak Prescott played really good.
Dak's played really good down the stretch except one game. But I'm not saying they're not well coached, but when you keep doing the same things in big games against the good teams, and coaching's one of the things you look at. They should have had Zeke Elliott. They should have paid him whatever it would take reasonably. He's in New England because he was the guy when you get inside the 5 who was powerful. He would have had the ball in the end zone.
Uh-huh.
I think they missed Zeke or somebody like Zeke Elliott.
So who's your long shot NFL team right now?
Well, they're not really a long shot, but nobody's talking about Detroit. They're talking about San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Dallas. And the Lions, since midway through last year, they've been really good. Dan Campbell, a Texan from A&M, has done a tremendous job, and their quarterback, Jared Goff's up and down, but they're going to get to host a playoff game. And there hadn't been a playoff game hosted there, I guess, since '93. and they've only won one playoff game since the 50s. I could see them because of their offense. I could see them because Aaron Glenn, another Aggie, former Texan, who's their defensive coordinator. They do have talent, but they're capable of beating anybody. And the 49ers looked human in that loss to Baltimore. So I think Detroit, of all of the division winners, is the one that I think could make the most noise in the playoffs. They're also physical because Dan Campbell's physical. They can run the ball. They have two running backs. That's what you have to do in the playoffs. You have to run the ball, especially when you have to play outdoors.
Was Dan Campbell a player or a coach at A&M?
He was a player. He was a tight end, and he played for, I think, 10 or 11 years. And then he started off lower-level assistant. And when he was hired by Detroit, in his introductory news conference, everybody made fun of him because he's talking about how physical they'd be. He talked about they'll bite him in the kneecaps if they have to. Well, people were just killing him over that quote.
That's a great quote.
But now they're willing to bite you in the kneecaps, and everybody knows it. I love watching his post-game speeches to his players because he gets so fired up he almost cries. And he's done a tremendous coaching job.
So I was told when Roy Head was, he knew Colonel Parker. So he got Colonel Parker to introduce him to Elvis Presley. So he said, here's Elvis Presley, and Roy Head falls to the ground and bites Elvis on his calf. And Elvis says, what the hell did you do that for? He said, you'll never forget me. That's pretty good.
Oh, that's one of the funniest things I ever heard.
Yeah, he bit him out on the calf like a dog.
Oh, my goodness.
So these national championship tickets are expensive.
Are they?
Yeah, they are expensive.
Well, however, can you imagine if the Longhorns actually get in it, the price is going to skyrocket. And if the Longhorns don't get in it, will you be able to get them cheaper? But I'm guessing Texas is going to get in, and whatever the price is, whatever you can get them for now, they're going to be a lot cheaper than if Texas gets in it.
So how important is home field advantage?
In the NFL, it's not what it used to be. More and more visitors are winning. Great example, Baltimore at Santa Clara. They call it San Francisco. It'd be like the Texans playing at Galveston and saying the game was in Houston. It's not. Santa Clara is 45 miles from San Francisco. And so Baltimore went in there and just beat them up. Now, it helps the quarterbacks throwing interceptions in the red zone and the end zone. But more and more teams are good ones. They can win anywhere, anytime. And a team like Baltimore, they can run with multiple backs. And as a quarterback who's a great runner and a really good defense, they're built for bad weather during the playoffs. They'll get the bye, I'm sure. And so I picked Baltimore before the season, so I want them to win the Super Bowl so I can brag about it. But to me, I thought San Francisco was the best team and they were second, but they just beat up the 49ers big time.
Is that right?
John Harbaugh's a great coach. 16 years, he just does a fabulous job.
Better than his brother?
Yeah, because he's won a Super Bowl, and his brother hadn't won a national championship. Maybe he wins one this year. Did you see about his new contract? He's being offered 10 years, $125 million, with the clause he can't go to the NFL. And so he hasn't signed it yet. I'm wondering if he's waiting to see what NFL teams will come after him, because $12.5 million, if he were offered that in the NFL, that'd put him right up there behind Belichick, Andy Reid, Pete Carroll, and John Harbaugh, because those are the top four paid. And so maybe somebody like Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, would give him more, but I think he should stay right there where he is. You know, he's more popular than the governor.
Is he really?
And, oh, yeah, everybody in Michigan. It's interesting. Dan Campbell's very popular, but the University of Michigan, they rule that state.
Is that
And
right?
Right now, he's a Michigan man.
He's a Michigan man. There you have it, the great John McClain, Mattress Mack. Will be next Tuesdays will be very interesting after the Monday college football playoff games, right?
Can't wait.
Hook 'em horns.